Now we are starting the session. Good evening, participant. I am Mukund Kumar, Assistant Technical Manager in NDRF, and today I am the host for this session. Still now, we have completed 12 days of online internship program, and today is the second last day of 14 days online internship program organized by National Design Research Forum, NDRF, in association with the Institution of Engineers India, Kanpur Local Center. For today's session, NDRF has brought two speakers for this common session for all engineering branch. First topic is Industries 5.0, and the speaker is Shri Anbuchezhian and General Manager Caterpillar Thiruvallur. And the second topic of this session is Introduction to the Law and Intellectual Properties Right. And the speaker is Shri R. Vijaykrishna, ex-project manager NDRF. And today the whole session will be for 1 hour 30 minutes, in which each technical presentation will be for 45 minutes each. After each technical session, we have 10 minutes of question and answer. So I request all the participants, please put your questions in our YouTube channel chat box. So before introducing the speaker, I would like to announce the upcoming event of NDRF. So dear participant, an online event is arranged on 24th July 2021, Saturday by 10:30 a.m. The event is titled as Techno Spotlight, and NDRF organized monthly Techno Spotlight event to showcase innovative projects by the engineering student and the startup. A startup mentored by NDRF shall present its innovative project on converting the bananas waste into value added products. This event is a free event and open for everybody interested in innovative engineering technologies. Padma Shri M. Anadori shall be the chief guest. We welcome you all for this event, and you can register for this event by scanning the QR code displaying in the screen right now. And the link will be shared in the WhatsApp group for registration. Please inform your friend and the faculty member to register for this event. So now I would like to introduce the speaker of this session. Shri Anbuchezhian is a general manager of operation in Caterpillar for Thiruvallur plants and has 30 years of experience in engineering, education, and manufacturing. He is a graduate in mechanical engineering with post-graduation in management. Shri Anbuchezhian is a certified trainer for making great leader program and got trained by Indian schools of business for leadership. He got his career in an engineering college as a lecturer in mechanical engineering department. After 2 years, he moved to an alloy steel foundry and served as an assistant manager quality assurance for 5 years. In 1996, he joined TVS companies to make in India parts. He joined Caterpillar India Private Limited in 2007 as a Six Sigma Master Black Belt. He trained 200 black belts and coached 500 projects. In 2012, he became a factory manager for prime product operations in Caterpillar Thiruvallur factory near Chennai. In 2014, he became head of manufacturing, engineering, quality assurance, and technical service function for Caterpillar India Integrated Manufacturing Operation Division. He is an active member of Confederation of Indian Industries. Now he is a elected member of CII State Councils and a co-chairman of Tamil Nadu State Manufacturing and Competitiveness Panel. He is a member of Executive Committee for Anna University Industry Institution and Collaboration Center. So now I like to request the speaker of this session, Shri Anbuchezhian sir, please come up on this virtual stage, and this stage is over to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mukund. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yeah. So, little bit challenge on the PPT. It is running. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, sir. Little bit, it's coming fade, seem to be fade, sir.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, let me start with the introduction. Good evening, friends. This session is talking about Industry 5.0. There is a technical challenge in getting that slide. I will try to fix it meanwhile. So most of you know that the Industry 5.0 is coming as a new revolution in the industry, and it is going to make the change in the entire system of our manufacturing. And so before that, just a minute. Something.
Sir, please put the screen in full mode, sir.
Yeah, just a minute, just a minute. I'm just rolling on that. Hope that now you are able to see the screen fully.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the Industry 5.0 is a new revolution in the manufacturing industry. Since I spent more than 3 decades in the manufacturing industry, I am going to talk more specific to manufacturing industry, and then it will be extended to any other industry, and it is applicable to all branches of engineering. So before going to what is that Industry 5.0, if you talk the disruption for manufacturing, so as you people know that the India is the third largest manufacturer right now, where after US and China. So a lot of things are changing. First thing is rapid changes in the customer needs. The quality changes or the delivery timeline changes. What is happening in the market is whenever there is a new technology evolved, people are immediately expecting that technology to be adopted in the product and services. It needs a big data. Data analytics is required because we always work with the knowledge in our mind. We never spend much time. The statistics is the most hated subject in the college in the past, but today is the prime subject, and it has a lot of application in the industry. And the technology wise, every customer is expecting a technology, and resources supporting a manufacturing such as water, oil, fuel, everything going to become a shortage in the very soon. That's why a lot of electrical vehicles are coming in place, and a lot of focus on coming out of with this oil and conventional fuel. And when come to the people side, the millennial, most of the youngsters like you don't want to touch the grease or oil in the industry, but instead you need a touch screen. That's what you people are expecting. So the industry needs to change for expectations of all these things. So it also compelling need to reduce and reuse and recycle the resources, because the mother nature has a limited resources like a coal or the oil or cement or whatever material available. it is very limited. Once we exhausted completely, we are going to end up with a problem of shortage. So the industry is continuously evolving and inventing what is alternate, that is called as resource productive operations. How to utilize the less resource and maximize the benefit. That's how it is the condition of the manufacturing industry. So a lot of external factors forcing manufacturing industry across the globe to change the way in which we are working. So what is the definition of smart manufacturing? We consider the three elements in the smart manufacturing is smart innovation, smart factory, smart supply chain. So the smart innovation, extended innovation. So the extended innovation means each and every person in the entire value chain, that is from raw material production to delivery and service, after sales service, till such a time everyone has to innovate. For example, if you take a car company, a car dealer salesman has to innovate how to convince a customer to sell a car. And a producer of the steel company has to innovate how to make a lighter material, something like that. And also connected life cycle innovation, that is still the asset or the equipment or the product what we make that should serve the full life cycle, not just selling and forgetting. So we have to give the service quality also to the people, and sustainable innovation. So in the industry, the sustainable innovation is more important. In the research institutions or labs, innovation is taking time, and we can keep bumping the money from the government or any R&D. But in factories, in manufacturing industries, so we have to sustain innovation, means we have to trade off between the expense of R&D as well as getting a profit from the product selling. So there is a challenge in that. So we have to manage it. That is called smart innovation. The smart factory means it is a cyber physical shop floor. So in the olden days, if you go to any factory, you will see only the mechanical elements in the factory, moving parts, lathes or drilling machines, something like that. But today we need a cyber physical shop floor. That means something needs to be added on the internet side and the data side and then electronic side. So it is not a physical shop floor anymore, and a lot of virtual validation, virtual elements are coming into the manufacturing industry, and also decentralized production control. Because in the today global manufacturing footprint, a engine is getting manufactured in one continent, transmission is getting manufactured in another continent, and some valves and other micro nano elements are getting captured from different element, different continent. So there is a decentralized production control is required at the global level. So in the name of maximizing the benefit across the globe, after globalization, it became a decentralized production control and autonomous decision making and adoption. So we are not able to wait for the decision from the big bosses sitting somewhere in the US or China or Korea or any other country. So we have to have an autonomous decision making. So the autonomous decision making means it is not only for the human being, even the machines has to take some decision when we operate in the manufacturing environment. So a lot of things are changing. The smart factory elements and smart supply chain elements, that's what comes under the industry 5.0. So in supply chain, so one of the most critical element of manufacturing is supply chain. The supply chain means procuring a raw material, processing and transporting the raw material to factory, and after within the factory, moving the materials and transactions, accounting, and then dispatching to the supplier end, customer end. So it is a big thing. The supply chain become a most critical management process in the manufacturing industry. If you take the e-commerce industries, 90% what they do is only supply chain activities. If you take any e-commerce business, door deliveries, everything is a logistics business. They don't make any product, but they just buy a product and sell it to the doorsteps. So the supply chain become most critical. in that we need a agile collaboration networks. A person producing a component in Tirunelveli or in Madurai or the southmost part of Kanyakumari should have the capability to collaborate with New York or Detroit to sell his product. That means it needs a connectivity across the globe and seamless integration with the improved transparency, because that's where the confidence building in the global manufacturing is required. A person sitting in US, a car manufacturer should have the capability to see whether the component manufactured in Chennai or Bangalore is ready for shipment or something like that, and access to condition of the product and environment. If you take the mining product, we have a underground mining where with more than 300 meters or 500 meters under the earth, our machines are operating, means how to access the condition of the machine, whether it is the oil levels are okay, whether the engine conditions are okay, something like that. So how to extract the condition monitoring of the product irrespective of the environment. It was a challenge only for the space shuttles or space product. Now it become a more mandatory for all type of product, because we are operating autonomous robots or autonomous machines or self-driven machines across the globe and under the earth. So those things are more critical. So in the smart manufacturing, the definition has changed over the period of time. So the three critical elements of smart manufacturing is smart innovation, smart factory, smart supply chain. These are the industrial needs in the current situation. So what is happening here? So the industrial revolution is helping us to manage these challenges and do our business more profitable. So just a glimpse of what is industry revolution 1. In 1760, it is a mechanization and using the natural resource like a water, steam and power. And in the industry 2.0, mass production and electricity. In industry 3.0, computers, automation and robotics. And industry 4.0, which is very predominant and we are working with the last few years, is internet, data analytics and connectivity. And last year, somebody thought about that something needs to be done on the mass customization, that is called industry 5.0. So I will talk about more in detail between the difference between the industry 4.0 and 5.0 in the later slide. So I'm going to touch upon the elements of industry 4.0 first, then I will touch upon the industry 5.0. What is way, in what way, or what are the elements which is getting added into this system. So these are the elements of the industry 4.0. Starts with autonomous robots, simulation, horizontal and vertical system integration, industrial Internet of Things, cyber security, additive manufacturing, augmented reality, big data analytics. So most of you may be familiar with, if you Google it, you will get everything, the elements. I am going to talk about something unique about the application oriented aspect of these elements, how we are using in the manufacturing industry. So if you take the assembly process, any assembly process, whether it's a two-wheeler or car or a earth-moving equipment or tractor, one of the biggest majority of the activity is tightening. Tightening the bolts and nuts to join two parts, or positioning the engine, or putting a cover, everything. The tightening is one of the critical process and most predominant process in any assembly process. So if you take the olden days, the industry 1.0 or 2.0, we used to have that open-ended spanners, what you see in the roadside mechanic shops, which is uncontrollable. That is, the amount of torque what we apply depends upon the skill level of the individual. So as you people know that in the engineering, the required torque needs to be applied to any joints, otherwise the joint will not withstand any fatigue load or stress. So over torquing is also a problem, under torquing is also a problem. If it is under torquing, it will loosen the bolt. If it is over torquing, it will break the bolt. So this is a condition where we had in that Industry 4.1.0 or 2. After the Industry 3.0, we had the controlled torque tools. These torque tools are considered as torque wrenches and the pulse guns for the torquing. So it is a mechanical control. It has a preset torque value. I can say 40 Newton meter or 20 Newton meter. I can just click it. If there is a click sound, I can ensure that the applied torque is achieved. But today in Industry 4.0, we have a digitally controlled torque tool. What is the advantage of that? It is, first of all, I can preset the torque value. Then I can keep monitoring all the bolts and nuts, how much it was torqued. Even I can calculate the process capability of the process torquing. And one more advantage is the torque value, what we are talking, you people know that it is measured in Newton meter. So the heavy industries needs a 4,000 Newton meter or 5,000 Newton meter. In some cases, it go to 10,000 Newton meter. Just imagine a small open end spanner or this torque wrenches is not adequate. It needs a heavy efforts. For example, in the case of 3,000 or 5,000 Newton meter torque, even 4 people has to pull the torque wrench to create the torque. But here in digital torque tool, it is very easy. Just a person has to hold that torque tool automatically rotate and tighten and give the green signal saying that you torqued for 5,000 Newton meter. And one more thing is the Industry 4.0, what we are able to do is we are able to capture the data and we are able to connect this torque tool with my conveyor in which our vehicles are passing from one workstation to another workstation. If the torque is not applied properly, it can stop the line. So the defect is getting detected at the torquing stage or the particular stage, and it will stop the entire line. And the quality person has to go come and do and check and then re-torque it or something like that. So the quality is getting ensured at the particular stage of the operation. One more thing is I can connect this torque tool through a cloud to any server. Then I can keep monitoring it and keep analyzing it. Even I can keep predicting the condition of the joints what we make. So this is the advantage of the thing. Industry 4.0 digitally controlled torque tools. So in the machining process, you may aware of that a conventional drilling machine, what our electrician or plumber used to use, and in the Industry 3.0 we come to the radial drilling machine, and the CNC machine came in picture in between 3 to 4 revolution. And most of you know that it is a CNC machine is a numerically controlled machine. So far we used the numerically controlled machine with automated programmed processes. That's all. But in Industry 4.0, what we are doing is we are able to capture the data of all the machines. What is the running speed of the spindle? What is the tool condition monitoring? All those things. So I can connect this CNC machine in my internet server, cloud data. Then anybody sitting across the globe can watch the operating condition of this machine. So it enhances the monitoring mechanism, and it also helps us to prevent some quality defects what we have, and then also helping to take certain critical decision. For example, my tool deteriorated, means I can easily replace the tool and then I can stop the machine and correct it. And wherever we are waiting for the decision from the higher officials who is sitting far away from our country can take a decision. Yes, I am able to understand the machine condition, how it looks like. So let me approve for the investment, something like that is happening. So the connected assets is the biggest advantage of the Industry 4.0. As you know that the welding processes, we used to have the welding rod and then keep welding it. It is depends upon the operator skill. Then later on it came as a semi-automatic machines where the linear motion or standard welding can be done. And today we have robots. Robots are having robots having a totally automated process and consistency in the quality of the welding. Here in robots also, we have an Internet of Things to get connected through the cloud data, and then we can capture the data. Then I can instruct, run this program 2.0 or something like that. Then it also drives the consistency and also take a better decision about the process. So one more advantage with the CNC machine, robots or the digital torque tool, even we can integrate the quality checking of the machines as well as the uh, whatever the condition we want to monitor, we can integrate with that. Maintenance schedules can be integrated with that. So that the ultimate state of the maintenance is autonomous maintenance. That means the machine itself can do its maintenance on its own. For example, the oil level reduced means it can fill on its own. That's how it works. That is called predictive maintenance. So in the casting industry, you people know that the foundry, the casting manufacturing process, a man-intensive process. Still, we have a challenge to find a technology to pour the metal. What is happening on the simulation side is previously, when I was in the foundry in 1990s, we used to struggle what is happening inside the mold, and we used to cut the mold and see things, all those things. Today we have a sophisticated software. Before pouring, we can analyze where the stress region is, where the methods needs an improvement, whether any shrinkage is possibility is there. All those things is possible to predict in the desktop. So another thing is the material handling. I talked about the logistics and supply chain. So we have a lot of automated guided vehicle, AGV, and that is helping us to avoid the manual intervention and heavy load. And there is another thing is called light to pick. If you see the right hand side and the top skin, light to pick. This is a new concept with the Industry 4.0 come into place. For example, in a particular car conveyor line, if the person is searching for the bolt to mount a engine, he just press a button, then automatically it says that material is required by this station number 3, operator number so and so, and it will show a red signal in the warehouse. Then the warehouse person can immediately pick the material and go to the line and give it. So the signaling of material wanted is happening through this. That is, it is all these examples what I am talking about is already implemented in some of the best companies in India. So it's not just a best example from outside world. It is within our soil. We have examples. So this is called pick to light, and the forklift operations or the truck operation, everything is connected through Wi-Fi. So we can, it is something like how we have the call taxi. It will automatically say, I am idle, please use me, something like that. So the logistics manager can choose which forklift should go and pick from the yard or the truck or something like that. So the even the simple forklift are getting connected to the Wi-Fi, and then it is getting optimized for utilization. Otherwise, somebody may be sitting idle or underutilized. All those things can be eliminated, and then we can use the assets or the equipment in a better way. So augmented reality, I am not going through the technicality of all these elements. I am going to talk about the applications. The augmented reality, we are using it for product development, process development, and training. You can see the example. And the simulation, we are using it for the plant layout validation before making a factory or constructing a factory. So that is significantly reducing the capital or investment and material flow analysis. And the one interesting thing is we are extensively using it for the training. For example, without wasting single drop of paint, without wasting single gram of welding wire consumables, you can make a trained welder or trained painter. So that is the advantage. Without any hazards, without any uncomfort, we can train the people. So we have a structured method of training the people using a simulation. So one of the advantage of the simulator using for training is it is like playing a video game. People show interest and automatically the input what the simulation gives is going into the minds of the people, and they enjoy the learning. So the simulators will create a situation and show that what is the joint to be welded or the door to be painted, and it will also give the test, and it also give the test mark, evaluation, everything. So normally in a complex manufacturing industry, we take 3 to 6 months to train any new operator or workman. But with this simulator, we are able to do it within a month. That is the biggest advantage what we have in the simulation. So big data analytics is one of the biggest topic and the passion of this current situation. So every dynamic system is generating a data, including our own physical body. In the COVID time, the pandemic time, we understood that how to monitor the oxygen level in a human beings. So every dynamic system, whether it is a living thing or non-living thing, it is generating the data. Are we extracting the data? So far, there was no need, but today we are extracting the data with the help of USB port or something like that. And then we are describing the data, how this behaves. For example, it is something like a medical. We are continuously monitoring oxygen level for a COVID patient for 1 month, and they then declare that is out of danger. Something like that, I can describe the data, what my CNC machine or robots giving. So fundamentally, it is a statistics, one of the not interested subject in the olden days, even in my college days, but today it became a predominant subject because it is driving the business intelligence. That is, data is getting converted into information, and the information become a input for the decision making. So we are able to do the business in a more intelligent way with this data. So basically, it is extracting the data from the system and describing the data, saying that how it looked like, whether the tool life is deteriorated, quality deteriorated, or improving the utilization, something like that. Then we can arrive at inference with the statistical analysis, and then we can predict how long this machine will run without problem, something like that. So application and tools for all stages are available, and connected assets creates a cloud data. So anybody can analyze the data from any corner of the world. They need not be sitting along with the machine. So that's how it is working. In a small village, a small scale industry is running a machine. That data can be connected through internet, and somebody sitting in other continent can analyze the data. So the right hand side, I given a list of tools available for big data or analytics. Everyone knows what is Microsoft Excel. Other tools are mainly the Tableau and Power BI. R and Python is more important. So what I suggest is, as young engineers, try to get familiarized with some of these tools, because there is two things. One is developing a customized solution for the system, and one other is applying the tools. So what we expect in industry is a fresh engineer, if says that I am familiar with the Power BI, I am familiar with the Python, I can do some coding, something like that. We prefer them for this type of job. So the business intelligence is the biggest functional responsibility or the job getting created across the globe. What is the advantage is it is predicting. For example, if you see on the roads, you can see a cluster of a big crowd of e-commerce people or the food service providers roaming around in a particular spot. We may be surprised why these guys are crowded here. But the background to that crowding is the big data and the predictive analysis says that today this particular food court or the hotel going to sell more because people prefer on this weekend, something like that. So the data analytics is driving the decisions and positioning the resources and taking some valuable decisions for the business. So this is one of the biggest driver of excellence in Industry 4.0. The system integration, I talked about that in the past, supply chain. So connecting the systems of your supplier, customer, and the factory. So ERP systems and data integration, electronic document integration. These are all the software or IT solutions. But for other group branches, knowing the application and utilizing that application is more important. So what is the Industry 4.0 is engineering skill. If you take the olden days, if you take any steel work or to make any forging, what we do, there were people by generations with their own ancient wisdom, they used to make that, whether it is a knife or some other tools. So that is called engineering skill. So the olden revolution, depending upon the engineering skill, then the mechanization came, then the engineering skill is integrated with individual and mechanical elements. Later on, when this Japanese came into become a predominant player in the industry, they insisted on the methodology. Just engineering is not adequate. The European and Western world talked about engineering, but the Japanese came with a new proposal. If you want to achieve best results in the industry, we have to adopt some methodology, TPM, TQM, all these 7QC tools, Six Sigma, production system, all those things came into picture. Then the Industry 4.0 is said nothing is required, just adopt the technology. You can forget about anything, you will get the best thing. That's what Industry 4.0 said. So the objective of the Industry 4.0 is lights out factory. That means if I switch on the machines, it will automatically run. It will connect between the machines. Then it will transform the information. It will say the product is ready. Just switch off light, factory will run automatically. That's how it was projected when it was evolved as a solution for the smart manufacturing. Is it choice? Is it possible? Is it possible by everyone? Something like that was questioned. Then there's some thought process came into the minds of the Japanese people again. They said, we can't ignore the engineering skill of the people. And it is not possible to have the fully automated factory anywhere in the world. In fact, there are a lot of debate and criticism about Industry 4.0. Some of the CEOs said, I can have an Industry 4.0 factory, but I can't be in the business because I will be keep investing on the technology and I will be losing the people. Something like that was criticized. So a lot of debate has happened. Then the industry leaders or the industry bodies came out with the solution for this limitation of affordability, availability, and restriction on the human utilization. They came out with a new revolution called Industry 5.0. So here what is this is engineering skill, methodology, and technology work together. It is called a customized solution or customized usage of the technology, where I can do it, where it is possible, where it is required. Let me adopt the technology. For example, I'll talk about that example in the later slide. So the objective of the Industry 5.0 is not lights out factory, it is smart factory. That means the smartness of the people also will be utilized while applying a smart technical solutions. So how to integrate the human efforts along with the technology efforts? That's what identified as a Industry 5.0. So the autonomous robots to cobot is the biggest example for Industry 5.0. So if you see the left hand side, it is a robot. So the robot, once programmed, means it will stop only on completion of the job. That means no one should intervene in between. It will become a safety risk. You people may have seen that a lot of accident happen with the robo operations when people try to enter in between to adjust something like that. Some of the people are killed by the robots. So that is one of the risks, and it needs a protection with all the guards, everything. But is it possible to make autonomous robots for each and every operation? No, because it needs a lot of money. It also needs certain constraints. For example, in all industries today, the market is changing. We are not making the same product multiple numbers or all days. Products are keep changing. A model, particular model comes today, become obsolete within a year. So the customization is must. We can't keep producing one part for 10 years or something like that. So we can't keep changing that programming, something like that. So that's why the solution came as a cobot. Cobot is nothing but collaborative robot, that is called. So this is a typical Indian shop floor example where a person can put his hands along with the cobot and ask cobot, do this job, I will come and correct it the next job, something like that. So the lot of challenges on adopting the robot blindly in all operation, that is not possible due to variation in the input material, everything matters. So that's why it is a customized solution of robots is called cobot. So like that, everywhere there is a manual intervention, utilizing the manpower more efficiently with the technology. So what is Industry 5.0? Why Industry 5.0? It is aimed at supporting, not superseding the humans. So it is not going to eliminate the job. It is going to help the people to work in a smart way and finding the optimal balance of efficiency and productivity. So we in the Industry 4.0, we were talking about enhancing the productivity towards infinity, but the efficiency also matters. That's where it is coming as a solution through Industry 5.0. And the safety, I talked about that, availability and affordability. How many developing countries have the affordability to adopt Industry 4.0 automated solution for each and every operation? There is no such a thing possible. So that's why it came as a new solution, new smart solution for the industries. So what is Industry 5.0 impacting? Is it impacting only mechanical industry? No, it is impacting every branches of engineering. I hope that this session is for all branches of engineering. So it is, if you enter as an intern or a new employee, you have a Industry 5.0 environment. So you have to work for everything. So jobs in manufacturing. So if you take the manufacturing industry, we have jobs in product design. We have jobs in process design, supply chain, and production. In the case of product design, you should have you should learn about simulation techniques, drafting techniques, modeling techniques, prediction analysis, and virtual validation and augmented reality. All those things comes under the product design. And similar to product design, when you come to process design, it is similar tools like a virtual layout validation or the simulation, along with some of other data connectivity systems. In supply chain, the enterprise resource planning, ERP solutions, or any database and data analytics also required. In the production, robot programming or cobot programming or CNC programming or torque tool handling, digital torque tool handling, all those things are required. So you have to be very specific. What is the vertical in which you want a job in manufacturing industry? If you are very passionate about product design, try to learn something related to that product design on Industry 5.0 tools or the elements. So you choose that. Every vertical as equally important, and every vertical has the biggest opportunity in the future. So choose your job. And another thing is, it is also getting integrated in our factories. For example, in manufacturing industry, we are not recruiting only mechanical graduates or production graduates. We are also recruiting electronics graduates to do some programming and other system upgradation, everything. So it's a great opportunity available in these 4 verticals. you people can put some efforts to prepare yourself to enter the industry. So the new norm is innovation matters, not the experience. And agility learning, how quickly you learn, that's what matters, whether it is a CNC programming or cobot programming or data analytics, all those things, everything become a physical to digital. Whatever we did in the past as a physical work, it became a digital work, and new business model, new jobs are getting created. The data scientist is a new job, what is created recently. So like that, it's a lot of opportunity exists in the manufacturing industry. So this is my final slide. Our factories are becoming smarter, not like a olden days. It needs smart people. Why I am talking about that is, for example, most of the time people don't prefer the factory environment or manufacturing sector because they have to touch the grease and oil. But today, you no need to touch any grease or oil because you have a touch screen for everything. We have a touch screen for greasing, degreasing, oil filling, for everything. So the factories are becoming smart in line with any global footprint across the globe. So Indian factories become more smart. Lot of cobot, robot, everything is implemented in the Indian industry. So it is a nice place to work to make more value for the country. So I strongly encourage all participants to consider the manufacturing as their career for future. So I am ending with this. So our dreamer, our great leader, APJ Abdul Kalam will bless everyone to get the bright India and brightest spot in the global chart. I'm stopping here. Thank you for that. And any questions we can answer.
Thank you for your presentation, sir. Now we will start the question answer session. And
Okay.
First question is that, sir.
Yeah.
Industry 4.0 is completely implemented.
Question is it implemented
Yeah,
completely
yes,
or not? Correct?
4. Yeah, yes, sir.
So there is no company in the world completely implemented Industry 4.0. A lot of elements of 4.0 is implemented. That's where the debate came into things. Is it possible to implement Industry 4.0 completely? No, that's why that Industry 5.0 came into picture. Where I want to, so we are almost every company in the country has implemented some element of Industry 4.0, but there is no one company implemented 100% of element of 4.0.
Next question is, sir.
That is my answer.
How we can learn the programming language to give the instruction to the robot for a particular work?
Yeah, the robo programming, all the CNC and robo has a control system manufactured by different companies. It is German or Japan or some other European countries, and it is a specific coding. So the robot programming courses are available. Even the government training centers are conducting that. You can learn the basics. Once you enter the industry, you can just customize that. The fundamental programming coding is same. Like in the CNC machine, it's a PLC programming, nothing great. Just you have just to explore the robot programming basics as a course, and lot of service products available to teach you.
So next question is, what are the application of augmented reality for training in India?
Yeah, the augmented reality is, for example, I want to train a driver in an underground mine.
Yes.
The mining industry. I can't put him or any remote place, hot conditions. I can't put it in the train directly to the underground to train. We don't have a time or it is a risk. So we create that situation, underground mine environment through augmented reality, and then we will ask to, he will, with a 3D effect, he can feel that he is inside the mind and he is operating the machine, and he can do that. So any remote or any, for example, the case of new factory we want to establish, we can't wait for the factory getting built. So we can put the layout in a augmented reality and then ask people to just feel that there is a augmented reality laboratory setup exists in all the R&D centers of the manufacturing companies. If you go inside that room, you will feel that you are in a factory with a new, because all these sites are with 3D screens, and it will automatically say that you are walking, you will be feeling that you are walking in a factory which is going to be constructed after 5 years. So training the people for the remote operations and before seeing a product. For example, in the case of some of the driving examples, if a person crossing the road, how do you behave? If I want to test that person, I can do it in augmented reality. I no need to physically ask a person to cross while driving. So such a conditions we can simulate in the augmented reality. So it has an extensive usage. It can be customized for the needs of the company.
Yeah. Next question is, sir.
Yeah.
There is scope for PLM in future. If how long would the scope be?
What is that PLM?
The scope for PLM.
PLM. I presume that it is a product
Yes.
life cycle management. Yes, it is the scope. It is there in that I talked about that smart innovation, that is end-to-end life cycle management. So that's where the connectivity comes into picture. How it is happening is, we put some system called linkage between the machine or the car or the equipment operating in a remote place and connect it with our server. It will get monitoring throughout the life. Normally, if you take the car or any truck, the life, full-time life varies from 5 years to 10 years. Till such a time, I can monitor it through a computational systems. It is nothing but we are putting a SIM in that machine and capturing the data and transmitting the data from that system to our server.
Yes.
So PLM
Now
is definitely utilized with the technology. Yeah.
Yes. Now we will take the last question, sir. In
Okay.
aeronautical engineering, what are the career opportunities, sir? For aeronautical engineering,
I have a
what are the
limited knowledge
career
about
opportunities?
aeronautical industry, and we know that India is not that much big on the aeronautical. That's what since I am a member of the Confederation of Indian Industries, we put that as one of the focus area, and we have very limited. We are not self-sufficient till we are importing the aircrafts. That's a condition, and only that will open up more opportunities on aeronautical. Since I don't have much knowledge or the exposure to aeronautical, what are the jobs? You may have to approach a right resource to get more insight about that aeronautical.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for your question and answer. And you have beautifully explained every and each question, sir. So now the first session has ended. Now we will start the second session by inviting the new speaker. So now I would like to invite the second speaker of this session, Shri R. Vijaykrishna. Shri R. Vijaykrishna has completed his BE in Electronic Engineering from Bangalore, and he has 20 years of professional experience. Shri R. Vijaykrishna was an ex-senior project manager at NDRF, and now he is the law practitioner. So now I welcome you to sir, and this virtual stage is over to you, sir.
Hello, good evening to one and all. I hope I'm clear and I hope my screen is visible to everybody.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible, sir.
Okay. So I think over the past few days, all the students have listened to a lot of technical topics. And the topic which I'm going to share with you now is going to be different from all the topics that you have encountered. So, see, this is regarding law and intellectual property rights. See, the knowledge of law is actually very essential to all citizens because it deals with something that you interact on a daily basis from when you are born itself. So, as they say, there is a famous saying in law that ignorance of law is not an excuse. And I'm sure all of you have been studying a bit of law in your sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, in terms of civics, where you'd have studied some aspects of the Constitution. So knowledge of law is very important. For example, if you are going on the road and you meet, with an accident or something like that, if you go to court, you cannot tell that I did not know, by mistake I entered into a one-way road and things like that. So basically, as they say, you cannot plead ignorance. So you are supposed to know and be in the knowledge. So knowledge of law is essential for everybody, and especially true for engineers, because there are certain special aspects of law pertaining to intellectual property rights and contract law and things like that, which you will be encountering once you finish your engineering and get onto the real world. So I will give you a brief introduction because 45 minutes time will not be sufficient to cover all the aspects. So I'll be covering some practical aspects of law for engineers and certain aspects of business law if you are interested in forming your own startup once you complete college, and about intellectual property, wherein whatever the creative aspects that you do once whatever you create a software program, or you create what you call a business where you have things like trademark, and you've invented certain things and you'd like to patent it. How do you safeguard your intellectual property? Because you put in all the hard work, you cannot allow anybody else to steal your property, which is your intellectual property. So I will begin by asking you, what is law? See, law is as one of the famous definitions go, law is command of the sovereign. So once you say command and you say sovereign, there are certain aspects that come into play. That means that there is somebody who governs you, and there is what you call, that person has an authority to enact a law, and everybody have to follow that law. And it also goes without saying that if somebody does not follow it, there can be repercussions like punishment. So it is the rule of conduct that the citizens are expected to follow. So that is law. And law is not something that has been invented recently. It has been there from time immemorial, wherever societies wanted to follow certain rules, so that they are they want to live in a civilized society. And law as a subject has been there from, again, time immemorial, and it has been developed and codified over centuries. So what are the basic requirements for a law to be accepted? It should be general, Everybody must know of it, and because only then, if you know of it, you can follow it. You can't make rules suddenly, you backtracking it, saying that this is going to be applicable for the past 5 years and things like that. It has to be from today. It should be easy to understand. You cannot have contradictory laws. It should be easy to follow, and there has to be some consistency. Now, how do you find the appropriate law? See, basically, all laws are generally enacted when you find that there is some problem which needs to be governed. For example, the internet has been there from 1990s, if not earlier. But only when they found that a lot of e-commerce transactions and a lot of paperless office applications are coming in, they want to sign digital contracts, then they enacted the law, the Information Technology Act for 2000. So it is as a law is enacted to address a problem. So before that, what happens? It is just because you don't have a law does not mean that you cannot govern it. So the customs form a part of law. Customs, there are certain requirements. The customs has to be from time immemorial. It has to be practical. It has to be something that is not against the current law and things like that. So customs are a source of law. And you would have read the Constitution. The Constitution is the fountainhead of law, especially in India and most of the countries. So the Constitution gives the powers to the Parliament to enact laws. It defines how the country is going to be governed, and so on and so forth. Then the legislation which is enacted by the Parliament is another way in which laws are promulgated. And within the legislation, there are certain things called as delegated legislation, where the rules and regulations are allowed by the appropriate authority, so to follow, so that people can follow and it can be amended easily. Then there are ordinances, which are emergency legislations. When the Parliament is not in session, ordinances can be enacted. Then in India, we have the independent judiciary. So the judicial decisions and precedents also form the law of the land. Then the contracts are also a law, but they are binding only to the parties in the contract. So it is something like that, let's say 2 or more parties get together, sign a contract, and you could put it that they enact the law by which both of them will get covered. Then you have the international law. That means law. International law is actually not a pure law in the regular sense, but international law is something like the treaties and the resolutions of the United Nations, which certain countries they say that they will follow. So all these are the sources of law. Now, laws can be classified in different ways. So the one of the ways is civil and criminal law. Civil laws are those which govern most of the day-to-day activities, except when there is a crime. That means a crime is defined as an illegality against the society. It is so criminal law and civil law is the basic distinguisher way in which laws are classified. We will come to more about that in the later slides. Then you have the substantive law and procedural law. The substantive law are all the other laws which deal with any particular subject, except for those which govern how to approach the courts, how one should file the pleadings, how one should approach the high courts and the Supreme Courts. Then another classification of law is between the public law and private law. Public law is what is applicable to the general public, whereas private law is what is applicable to certain people based on their religion and their private practices. Like, for example, for Hindus have the Hindu Succession Act, and Muslims have the Muslim Personal Law. And those are specific based on the religion which they practice. Whereas the public law, like the Transfer of Property Act, Information Technology Act, and most of the other laws are applicable to everybody in a general way. Now, as I told you, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Indian Constitution is the longest written constitution. We have a federal structure. That means that we have a union and states, and of course the union is a bit more stronger than the states. We have a parliamentary form of government, wherein the president is the head of the country, but he's assisted by the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, and the Parliament enacts all the laws. See, our Constitution is both rigid and flexible. That is, although we can amend the Constitution, it is flexible to that extent, but there are limits to which the Constitution can be amended. And as per our preamble, we are a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. We have fundamental rights, which are very, very important to ensure that no government or no individual can take away these rights. And we have the directive principles of state policy, which are ideally that the government should address at some point of time. Then we have the fundamental duties, which was introduced much later after the formation of the Constitution, so that to balance the fundamental rights, so that people also, citizens know that they have duties that they have to perform. We have an independent judiciary, and we have the adult suffrage, that all adults are eligible to vote. Now, there is a certain branch of law called as torts, which are not enacted. These are not codified. It is derived from the French word tortum, which is twisted. It is basically an act or an omission due to which there is legal damage. That means the damage which a person suffers, in which his rights have been violated. So this is something. For example, we have what you call a motor vehicles accident, and somebody gets hurt. See, there is no generally, if you see that how much of compensation should a injured party get. So things like that are not as such a contract between the two parties who are met with an accident. So the aspect of a tort comes in, where yes, the injured person has suffered damage. It was due to an act of the other person who caused the accident, and he was because his rights have been violated, he has to be compensated. Then you see how the person gets compensated. So there are the liabilities are defined by whose fault it is. That is fault-based liabilities. Then there is a concept called as vicarious liabilities, or the concept of the deep pocket. So vicarious liabilities come in where, let us say that what I call a bus driver belonging to the corporation has caused an accident. So how much can you make him pay for the accident? If you hold the corporation liable, that is because the corporation will have deep pockets, and they are vicariously liable for the acts of the servant. So that is the driver. So that is the concept of vicarious liability. Then you have the concept of negligence. That means somebody ought to have taken care but did not take care. Then there is a concept of strict liability, in which suppose there is somebody had kept a dangerous substance, like for example in case of the Bhopal gas tragedy. So in that famous case, the earlier law was about strict liability, where the company had kept very lethal methyl isocyanide within their premises, but due to their negligence or whatever, they were strictly liable for the damages caused to all the people surrounding when it leaked. Then the Supreme Court enhanced the concept of strict liability and made it absolute liability, saying that irrespective uh, of how far their fault was, they were absolutely liable for the damages and the injury suffered. So this is all regarding tort. So now we come to the concept of criminal law. So this is very important, because if you see the tort, there is no tort comes in when there is no intention to uh, uh, commit the act. If the same act is committed with an intention to commit it, to cause problem, to cause damage, or to cause injury, it comes under the concept of criminal law. So that is there is the Latin word called mens rea, which is the mental element. So if there is the mental element, that means somebody has planned and has wantonly committed the act, then it becomes a crime. So when it become a crime, so you have the mens rea plus actus reus. So mens rea is they wanted, it was planned, there was a mental element in it, and an act was carried out. So the mental planning and the act of committing the act together constitutes a crime. And the concept of crime in India is all crimes are acts against the state. So the only remedy of a person who has suffered because of a crime is that you can file a complaint with the nearest police station, and then the police is supposed to take it up on behalf of not only that individual but also as a society as a whole, and investigate and bring the perpetrator to book. And that too, the police has to investigate and submit to the court, and the magistrate will conduct the trial and establish whether the person is guilty or not guilty. Is guilty, he'll be convicted. Is not guilty, he'll be acquitted. But the standard of proof, because if a person is convicted, he loses his liberties, he loses his fundamental rights. So the standard of proof in criminal law is very high. That is the concept of beyond reasonable doubt. And of course, you have the cyber crimes, which are a big thing in today's situations, where people can across the internet commit crime without even physically getting into your systems or computer-based systems. So for that, we have the Information Technology Act, which is there, but there are lots of issues with respect to cyber crimes, because the concept of jurisdiction, so which police station can handle it, things like that, because the person can you can be sitting in Bangalore, the person can use the computer networks right from let's say Delhi or Bombay right up to Bangalore, maybe internationally, and that person can be sitting in another corner of the world. So these are all big challenges which have to be overcome, and people are addressing it in case of cyber crimes. Now we are coming into the rest of the civil laws. As I said, the contract laws, which is important for all the budding engineers. So contract is basically, as I mentioned earlier, is the rules or the conduct which two or more parties will say they will abide by. And once the contract is valid, then the court will uphold it. So how does a contract get formed? So you have a proposal by one person, which is an offer, and then the other person accepts. Then the person who accepts will also have reciprocal promises. So these two things form promises and counter promises. And for example, let us say a person wants to give his house on rent. So the person says that I have a house, I will give it to you on rent. So he offers the house, let us say, for rent at 10,000. Then the other person says, yes, I will take it and I will give you 10,000 in return. So there is offer and counter offers, which is the promise and reciprocal promises. Together, it forms an agreement. And once the agreement is valid, that is, it can be enforced by law, it is a contract. So obviously, all agreements are not contracts, but all contracts are agreements. Now you might ask, okay, what are the agreements which are not enforceable by law? See, an agreement to do any illegal act. That is, if somebody says that, okay, I will give you certain money if you go and do an illegal act, maybe hit somebody. That cannot be accepted. So that is not enforceable by law. It may be an agreement, but it is not a contract. Now there are certain requirements for a contract to be enforceable. That means the parties to a contract have to have the capacity to contract. What is the meaning of capacity to contract? It means that the person should not be a minor, because minors are not allowed to contract. They should be of sound mind. That is, lunatics and people of unsound mind cannot enter into contracts. Then they should not have been forced to enter the contract. There cannot be any threats or coercion and things like that. So these are all the aspects which are important for a valid contract. So that what are the types of contracts? So you have valid contracts. So, and you have valid contracts are those ones which meet all the requirements under law. Then you have void agreements. That means that suppose an agreement to do an illegal thing is void. It's called as void ab initio. That is, from the beginning, it is void. So those are void. Then there are certain contracts called as voidable contracts. For example, if somebody was threatened to sign up a contract, that person can can choose at a later date to agree to go on with the contract, or he can avoid the contract by proving that it was under threat. Then there are illegal contracts. So illegal contracts which do not come under the valid contract category. So contract law is very essential for all engineers because it has a lot of day-to-day applications. Now, for those who want to get into business or startups and things like that, we have the concept of business law, which is a lot of laws which are useful for day-to-day business activities. So to understand this, let us understand in very simple terms, what are the different ways in which people can carry out business? So the very basic form of carrying out a business is in the form of proprietorship. That means you have an individual carrying out a business in his or her own name. So what is the meaning of that? The person carries out the business. All the profits and the losses are borne by that individual. So it is a very, very simple concept to understand. And the from the income tax angle, whatever is the profit made, not only from that business and whatever is in the person earns in terms of interest, everything comes as the income of the person, and the person is liable to tax. Now, suppose you have more than one person. One of the simplest form is what is called as the partnership. That means you have two or more people who enter into a partnership agreement, and they say that they will carry out the business. So each person, depending on the amount of contribution of will agree that they will, let us say, two people will accept that they both will put in 50% into the business, carry out the business, and they will share the profits at 50%. So the partnership agreement, generally it's preferable that it is registered. It will be registered at the registrar of firms, which is the government department. Then generally the partnerships will not have an individual. It is not a separate entity. That means that the partnership's income tax is shared between the income distribution between the different partners. So they will share the profits, and the profits are added to their respective incomes, and they will be liable to tax. So that is the concept of partnership. Then you have, at a higher level, you have the company law, in which two or more people can get together and form a company. So instead of a partnership agreement, they have two important documents. One is called the Memorandum of Association, and the other is called the Articles of Association. So these are the agreements which the people will sign up, and they will register this before the Registrar of Companies. So Registrar of Companies is another government department where companies are registered. So of course, the Registrar of Companies checks whether the company name is unique or not, and if certain requirements are fulfilled, they will register the company name. And this is held in a different form, that is in the form of shares. And the unique the nature of a company is that a company is separate from the owners. That means that the company is treated as a separate entity. It will have its own PAN number. The company will have a separate profit and loss account and balance sheet, based on which whatever it earns, it will pay its own tax. And if the directors of the company so decide, then they can distribute the profits to the owners, or retain the profits for future growth of the company. Now, generally, the companies are preferred form of running businesses because of all the stringent requirements by the Registrar of Companies. There are a lot of legal requirements. That every year there has to be annual returns. Every 3 months, that is 4 times a year, the directors have to meet, and there are a lot of stringent requirements that the company has to follow. So it is a little more stricter than the partnership, which has a lot more flexibility, and of a proprietorship, which has a tremendous amount of flexibility. But a lot of people prefer to form companies because it helps them to form professionally run organizations, which will help them in terms of startups get venture capital funding, because it will be in the form of shares. They can give a certain shareholdings to those who invest into the company. There are certain other benefits, but because of the requirements, the cost of these will be much more. Now, of course, I've also covered the taxation angle when explaining the difference between proprietorship, partnership, and company law. And of course, there is another aspect of the industrial law, which is pertaining to the Factories Act, and it is all related to how the workers in the company are what you call treated, the workers' rights, and things like that. So there are different aspects to business law that one must know once people step out into the world. Now we come to the concept of property. So the basic classification of property is immovable property, that is land, house, which cannot be moved. That is immovable property is defined as land, benefits arising of land, and things attached to the earth. So this is the easy for us to understand. Then as against the movable property, you have the concept of movable property. Things like car is mobile. You have shares are mobile properties. Bonds are mobile properties. Cash is mobile property. So the mobile versus immobile is very easy to understand. But then we have the other intangible type of property, which is the intellectual property. Intellectual property is nothing but what is created out of the creative aspects of the mind and by the what you call hard work and creativity of the individual. So now there are certain other aspects with respect to property as such. That is they have property is nothing but a bundle of rights. See, one of the most important is the right of ownership, which a person can hold out against the world. So there are interests in what is called as easements. So the easementary rights are generally pertaining to immobile properties, where a person, let us say that he has to approach his land by passing through somebody else's land, otherwise he cannot reach his own land. So although he does not own the neighboring land, but he has the right to cross that land and come to his property. So then there is the way in which the property is owned. There are a number of modes. That is, you have absolute ownership. That is, a person is in his individual capacity owns the property. Then you have joint holding. That is, more than one person holds it together. Then you have conditional ownership. And there are certain things where people can hold it during their lifetime. After the lifetime, it has to be given back to to the family and things like that. I'll not go into too much details. Then you have certain things like future ownership. That is, that after a certain point of time, they will own and things like that. So now we come into the interesting part, which has got a lot of implications for budding engineers. So you have the intellectual property rights. So as I said, intellectual property is something which is intangible and abstract. Generally, it is a creation of the intellect. Okay, the intellectual properties can be assigned. That means people can give licenses for a temporary period. Then after the death of a person, it can be bequeathed to the future generations. Then there are instances in which it can be embodied in real property. For example, if somebody writes a book, once it gets printed, each copy is an embodiment of the original work of the author. So that is a real property. So that is the meaning of it is embodied in a real property. Then there are time limited. So the basic concept of intellectual property is the concept where the government says that in order to protect the creator's rights, they will give certain time limited rights, after which it becomes public property. So that is it is like a quid pro quo. So government says that I will protect your rights for a certain period. For example, let us say 20 years for patents, 60 years for copyrights and things like that. After which you have to, even the patent holder has to share it with the world, so that the others can develop on that knowledge and take it forward. Then how do the government protect the property rights? Is protecting against infringement. Infringement means illegally copying the patents or the books and so on and so forth. So So the intellectual properties have developed over more than 100 years. That is, for example, the industrial property, intellectual property was divided basically as industrial property and property in literary and artistic works in initial stages. So it started with the Paris Convention in 1883 for protection of industrial property. So if you see the certain aspects of how it came about. See, during the Industrial Revolution, many inventions were taking place. And they were also showcasing it in many of the international trade fairs. But what happened was people used to go see these inventions and they were immediately going back and copying it. So as in the next few trade conventions, people were not willing to come forward because they felt that their inventions would be stolen. So then this problem created the concept where they wanted legal protection for their intellectual creativity. So the Paris Convention of 1883 was for protection of industrial property, and there was the Berne Convention of 1886 for the protection of literary and artistic works. So this is how it all started. There are many countries which are signatory to both these conventions. It all developed much further through the United Nations, through the trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. Then we have the World Trade Organization, which makes sure that the intellectual properties are protected, and of course the World Intellectual Property Organization, which monitors most of the intellectual properties throughout the world. Now this is the concept of patents. So what is patent? So for anything to be an invention to be patentable, there are certain very basic requirements. That means it has to be novel, there has to be an inventive step, and there has to be industrial application. Without these, that is, everything cannot be patented unless it meets these requirements. So, for example, a discovery. Let us say somebody discovers a new island. That cannot be patented. It is something that was already existing. So why do governments give monopoly rights to an inventor? That is so that he can be rewarded. Okay, then others should be prevented from stealing the invention and the hard work put in. Okay, and they should be able to encourage greater investments into that. Otherwise, if people steal inventions left and right, nobody will be interested in developing anything new. So within India, the basic way in which patents are granted is that you file the patents. The patenting authority will request for examination. Then they publish it in a publication to make sure that if somebody wants to object to it, and they can say that, okay, this is already covered under somebody else's patent, they should be able to come forward and challenge it. Then there will be an examination of the patent, and if there is an opposition, either pre-grant or post-grant, people can challenge it. And once it is through, the patents can get registered. And after the basic term, it can be renewed. Now, the patents, along with trademarks and all these things, were all part of the industrial property. Now we have the copyrights. So copyright is basically pertaining to literary works, dramatic works, musical, artistic works, and the secondary works such as sound recordings, cinematographic films, etc. So this started becoming more and more of an issue once you have the developments in reproduction technology. That is, you have the printing press for books, which started mass producing books. Then you have the software which can be what they call copied so easily, and these are all challenges which copyrights face. Now, copyright is only for the original expression, and it is the originality and creativity of the author, which shows the skill, labor, and judgment of the author. And the requirement is that it should be you should be able to fix it in a material form, like a story can be printed in the form of a book, which is a material form. Now, the see, unlike patents, which the rights will not come till a patent is obtained.
Sorry for the interruption, sir.
Yes.
You have 5 minutes to wrap up this session, sir.
Okay. All right. So unlike patents, in which the rights of the will not come unless the patent is filed, copyright is automatically done moment a work is created by the author. But if you register it, it has got certain advantages because it becomes easier to prove in case of infringement and for protection. So the duration is the lifetime of the author plus 60 years is the protection that is given under the Copyright Act. Now, another of the industrial properties is the industrial designs, which is pertaining to the shape, configuration, pattern, ornament, lines, colors, etc., which are applied to an article. So this is nothing but the concept of copyright, which is applicable to industrial applications for industrial designs. Then there is another very important aspect, which is the trademark, which is again one of the earliest forms of intellectual property rights. It is what we see day in and day out. It is basically an indication of the origin of goods or services. So the basic requirement is to identify the manufacturer and protect him against the competitors, so that the public are assured of the genuineness and the quality of the product. So what can be what I call trademark is any sign which can be represented graphically, and you should be able to distinguish the goods and services of one undertaking from the other. So once again, registration for trademark is not necessary, but registration has its advantages. And trademarks is also extended to the cyberspace through the domain name protection, where the disputes are resolved by ICANN, so that to prevent cyber squatters and things like that. So there are a number of other intellectual property rights which are not very pertinent to engineers, but I will cover it very briefly. One is the geographical indications. These are nothing but it is something like trademark for a goods which identifies the origin of goods. It is not limited to one origin. For example, let us say Mysore silk. So Mysore silk is in the Mysore and surrounding areas, where the Mysore silk can be identified based on the uniqueness of its the source of the yarn, the source of the silk, and the type of way in which it weaves. You have the Scotch whiskey, where it protects a particular type of whiskey coming from Scotland based on its geographical origins. Then you have the champagne, which has origins in places in France and things like that. So these are all protected. Then you have protection of plant varieties and farmers' rights. This is like for example, the basmati and things like that, where certain types of varieties are protected. People cannot, take those and claim them as its own. India successfully defended the plant varieties of basmati. Then there is what is called as confidential information. This is something which is slightly different from the rest of the IPRs, in which the information which is not declared has to be protected. For example, you must have heard the secret formula of Coca-Cola. So confidential information is also protected. And then the semiconductor integrated circuit layout design is also which is protected by a separate act. So these are all the different types of intellectual property rights. And these, once it's the property, there are ways in which it can be transferred. That is that it can be licensed to multiple users in different areas. For example, you have seen that Adidas gives manufacturing rights in India, in China, in different places. They keep the right, but they will give the usage rights to different users. That is called licensing. Then you have assignment. That is, you can assign the rights and transfer it permanently to somebody. Then there is a concept of transmission. That means that once, let us say, the right holder dies, he can the property rights can pass on according to the personal laws, maybe to his family and things like that. Now, basically the right, once you have rights, it has to be protected. So that is what are the remedies for infringement and violation of the intellectual property rights? You have an injunction. That means a court can prevent certain acts, like in making of illegal copies. They can ban it. That is called an injunction. Then once if copying is proved, then they can ask for for damages to be paid to the original right holder, intellectual property right holder. Okay, then they can ask if that person has made profits out of copying, they can ask them for them to be accounted, and all the costs borne can also be paid by the infringing party. Okay. So that brings to brief introduction of law and intellectual property rights. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take it.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for your presentation. Now we will take the question answer for this session, sir. The first question is that, sir, so in industry, are they make their own sets of rule for their worker, or they follow some law of the government?
See, there are a number of laws. See, there are a number of labor laws in India which the companies must follow for depending on the number of workers that they have. So, in fact, the number of industrial workers laws in India is quite substantial, and there is a lot of protection which is available for the workers in India.
So, next question is, what are the rights of worker in industry?
There are a number of rights for workers. That is the number of hours that a person can be allowed to work per day, the breaks that have to be given. They have to be given sufficient training in that particular activity. They cannot be put into hazardous industries. They cannot be allowed to endanger themselves. Then they have to be given certain minimum wages, and the wages have to be increased from time to time, and they have to be given medical benefits. They have to be given sufficient leave. There are maternity benefits. Then there is what you call there is the employees state insurance, which all workers are covered. So there are a plethora of rights that are protected by a number of laws in India. In fact, India has got very, very good workers laws. In fact, so that is why some of the countries which want to invest in India are not that happy because of the number of laws which are enacted in India for workers' rights. But it goes both ways.
Sir, next question is, sir, how the section is imposed?
Can you please repeat that?
How the section is imposed?
Yeah, I think the question seemed to be very, very general. So, see, a section comes into play when a law is enacted. So, a law is generally composed of a number of sections. So, I'd assume that the question is regarding how it is imposed. So, you might have encountered it in your civics questions, that how once, let us say, people want to, the parliament wants to enact a law. First, it is brought in as a bill. Once the parliament debates and it gets passed, and the president gives a concurrence, then after that it has to be published in the gazette, which is something like the newspaper of the government. So once it gets published in the gazette, it gets enacted as a law. So every section in that law has to be followed by everybody, whether they know it or not. As I said, ignorance of law is not an excuse. So once the law is enacted and it comes into force, everybody are bound by all the sections contained within the law.
So now the last question is, now the cyber crime is very common. So what steps are taken by the government to overcome these cyber crimes?
See, the Information Technology Act 2000, which was amended in 2008, and certain other amendments have also come in. This is what governs all the information technology related activities in India. In fact, this particular law has got both civil as well as criminal aspects to it, because certain things were verticals. For certain crimes, the penal provisions are also implemented within the same act. Now, there are a lot of challenges in implementing the laws in relation to the cyber crimes, because, as I told you, the victim, that means you might be sitting in Bangalore, your computer might have got hacked. Maybe money has gone from your account, and maybe your bank might be in Chennai. From your account there, it has gone to some third party out of the country, and this entire activity might have been done by somebody sitting in another part of the world, maybe in USA. So it is a very, very challenging aspect to bring the perpetrators to book. But there are cybercrime police stations which have been set up by the government, and once the person files a complaint, and then they will try to see, they will try to trace back and see what can be done. But theft of money and things like that, as long as it is within the country, it may be to a certain extent feasible. But once it is beyond boundaries, it is a very, very big challenge, because they will have to get cooperation from the police counterparts in USA. If they have tie-ups, it will have to go through the embassy and go to the police station in USA, where they will have to cooperate. It is a very, very difficult and challenging things to bring such crimes to book. But basic safeguards we have to do by ourselves. Things like we have to install antivirus software, anti malware software. We have to be careful not to reveal our passwords and pins and things like that. So there are certain basic safeguards that we ourselves have to have to do, because once things go out of hand, it is very difficult to rectify it. These are all practically very, very difficult, although we have the laws in place.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your briefly answers all the questions. And so now it's time to wrap up this session, sir. So we at NDRF profoundly thanks the speaker of the session, Shri Anbuchezhian, General Manager, Caterpillar, Thiruvallur, and the Shri R. Vijaykrishna, ex-Project Manager, NDRF, to give the time and share the valuable information to the students. And now we also thanks both of you, sir, for providing the comprehensive clarification on the queries raised by the participant. So participant, please join our last session of 14 days online internship program. For tomorrow's session, we have two speakers. The first topic will be the thoughts for 21st century's engineering student. And the speaker is Dr. V. Dilibabu, scientist. The second topic is Atmanirbhar Cypros and the future. And the speaker is Lieutenant General Dr. Vijay Sundaram, former director DRDL and advisor Micro Nano Bio System NDRF. So I request all the participants, please join the next tomorrow's session, and this is the final and the end session.
Thank you very much.
One more request from the participant. Please subscribe our YouTube channel for further notifications. So once again, I thank you, sir, and thanks to all. And please attend our next final sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.